Welcome to the Liberty Collaborative, where the past meets the present in the fight for freedom. We uncover the roots of liberty, spotlight the people who shaped it, and explore what it takes to preserve it today. If you're ready to think deeper, stand stronger, and act with purpose, you're in the right place. Let's reclaim what matters most.
And good Thursday morning, everybody. November 13th, 2025. It is just about 10:46 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we are the Liberty Collaborative podcast. And with me, as always, I have K. Carl Smith, Mike Hancock, and Chris Coyle. Thank you for joining us this Thursday morning. And we're going to really dive into some stuff today that's probably going to blow your mind, because as we were going through this and just talking off air, there was stuff that we're going to talk a little bit about Nick Fontes and Carlson and their interview, and just I can't believe people talk like this in this day and age. But welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for joining me as always.
Good morning.
Wild stuff going on, man. A target-rich environment, as they say, guys. Lots to talk about.
Absolutely. And before we start, I just got to say again, thank you to K. Carl. He was on the radio show last night. We did about 40 minutes, and it sounded great. It was real good. So it was nice doing my first interview. So appreciate that, K. Carl.
As a matter of fact, we sold
and you start with a superstar.
You sold 3 books last night?
A few. I don't know what the number was. They told me we sold a few of the new book.
Oh, fantastic.
Awesome. So what's the new book called, K. Carl?
Douglass versus Marx. The subtitle is The Battle for America's Soul. So as we promote the book today, I'm at the Sweeten the Pot, kind of encourage people. Look, you get the book, you get a t-shirt. A free t-shirt. I'm sorry about that, guys.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Well, Aaron, when we were talking about this show, one of the things we sort of talked about is the whole essence of political parties and how they form, what they're for. And just teeing this thing up for a minute, we know historically, of course, on Liberty Collaborative, we try and give people more context, more content, and historical perspective. And K. Carl, we often talk about the fact that no organized party or group of political people was addressing slavery. And it was Abraham Lincoln and a new group that really created the Republican Party. And I forget the various names of the parties prior to the Republican Party, but it really represented a societal movement that it put a tip on the spear. And of course, we had sort of the New Deal Democrats. We had a shifting of a larger government role in society, and sort of the society began to form around that. You had shifts in Republican, and now Trump, of course, people saying sort of there goes the traditional GOP and a much more, egalitarian, centrist sort of thing, populist, the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And then you got the Democrats that, Bill Clinton now looks like a neoconservative, right? Even Barack Obama. So is that a evolution, guys, or a revolution going on the Democratic Party? We're going to get into this. Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to say, I think when you kind of look at it, both parties are, at this point, like you said, facing some type of internal revolution. So like the Democrats, I would say, like over identity, economics, that sort of thing. Like, who are they right now? They've got a socialist in New York. They're not the party they were, let's say, 20 years ago. And then you have, like you said, with the Republicans, the nationalism, government power, immigration, like they're struggling with that, I guess, a little bit. So it is interesting to see where these parties are going and how one seems to be more organized with the No Kings rallies and everything else than the GOP side of things.
As I hear you guys talk, I'm reminded again of a quote from Frederick Douglass, who said on one occasion, he said, the Republican Party is bad. The Democrat Party is worse. And he meant by that because men are not perfect. But based on today's trends, since we got years have passed by, I contend the Republican Party is still bad and the Democrat Party is evil.
Yeah, it's guys, Michael, you're often zeroing in on words people use. And I think about, let's take the Republicans to start. This idea of sort of unencumbering people's lives from government, reducing government in people's lives, whether it's various Supreme Court things, going back to the rule of law and so forth. But there's also this idea within the Republican Party that you've got a group now that, and it's hard for me to parse out what the media is making it sound like it is, but there appears to be, guys, a fringe group at the I'll call it the end, that's sort of this isolationist, I don't know, anti-Israel, just what's that all about, you guys? This Tucker Carlson, this guy Fuentes, there are others. That's sort of a weird thing that's growing over there, or is it growing?
Well, I don't know if it's really growing or not. The media will certainly portray it as such. And to your point, K. Carl, as humans, by definition, we've got a bad side that quite often is very difficult to overcome. But if I take a look at the Republican side, I think you see it to a large extent, from my perspective these days, really focus on what it should be focused on, which is economic growth for our nation, protecting our citizens. The number one role of our nation, of our government, is to protect the individual rights of people and stuff. While I see on the other side, Democrats, a total disregard for the individual, and it's all about the collective and giving people things for free. And the only way you can give something for free to anyone is to take it from someone else. And they're really committed to doing that, which from my perspective, again, is evil. I agree with you, K. Carl, 100%. And it's real difficult to tell what's going on. You're just given the way the media plays things. It's very difficult to to know what's going on. I mean, Chris, you just recommended that book to me, The Presidents and the Peoples. And when you get into that and you get a larger context for why we are where we are today, if you take a look at Woodrow Wilson, speaking of evil, K. Carl, my goodness.
Oh, yeah. He was a scoundrel.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Totally.
He was an absolute scoundrel.
Yeah.
But you notice, you guys, how you always see this intersection, whether it was the famous Harvard eugenics movement and the Supreme Court involved, or Woodrow Wilson, president of Princeton, this intellectual elite that comes along and concepts in terms of individual freedom and fairness, that's too minor for them. That's not intellectual enough. And you know, it's very interesting, guys. Okay, Carl, your book, when you read, you hear this, Michael? Who was he influenced by? A guy who had just come back from Germany.
Yeah.
And was learning about political science and the whole idea of efficiency.
Yeah.
That politics should be efficient. And this idea that forget human rights, is the federal government's got to operate like a machine with no friction. Sorry, if equality and integration is friction, then we don't need it. Mind-boggling.
That's coming
out of intellectual Ivy Tower.
That sounds like the values of Karl Marx to me.
Well,
clear. Doesn't it? But here's something, Chris, I think you mentioned. Really, what's going on within the conservative movement? And here's a question. Do we now have a generation of right-wing influencers who praise liberty with their lips, but they're silenced when it comes to hate? I'm talking about Kevin Roberts and Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
I mean, why would you give a man, and I mentioned before, of the racist language this man is using, Mouth Fuentes, why would you give him 2 hours, number one? That's like giving an arsonist a torch.
Well, okay, Carl, guys, if I could just frame this, let's take the whole globe, right? You look at China, communist, dictator, Russia, dictator, you can put black blankets on those, right? Those are out. There's no discussion. There's no freedom. So you then go to this little tiny country called Israel. And you say, okay, let's put aside for a sec all the claims and counterclaims about whether who has a right. I just say to people, you actually have to read history to understand the Jews have been there just as long as, and they probably have more right to that ground than anyone else. But again, put that aside and say the one democracy in that whole region where a black Ethiopian Jew can come there, or Arab, and get a job and be promoted. Try that next door in any of these Arab countries. You've got to cover your face. You can't express your gender identity as you can. So here you have this free society, Israel, strong military. Why are these people against it? What is, again, everything aside, it's the one democracy in that area, and these people are attacking them as being bad.
You know what I really hate about this? He gave this man 2 hours. Here, Mike and I just finished writing the book. If we ask to get on the show, he's going to give us 2 minutes.
Yeah.
If anything.
If that.
Yeah.
Very interesting. You know, I look at Tucker in general. You know, I like Tucker. He digs in, but my big concern again is I don't really even mind him exposing Nick Fuentes as long as he's exposing Nick Fuentes in a conversation with him for who he really is, not sitting there sort of agreeing with him. And
got it.
Yeah, that's the thing that Tucker does that drives me nuts, really.
Those loaded words slip by, Michael, like you said. There's this sort of vapid conversation. And then he makes sort of this Fuentes, from what you played, Aaron, kind of a statement, and Tucker Carlson just lets it go.
That's what I mean by excusing hatred with silence.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we'll play that in a minute here. But for me, I think the drift, I guess, or these fringe aspects of it is you have this younger group of Democrats who are now being turned on to socialism. And they don't see socialism as like Russia or any of these other communist countries. They just see it as expansion of government taking care of the people, right? It's not, they're not really seeing the socialism for what it is. And then you have this other aspect of it on the right where it almost seems like in the GOP, if you're more controversial than you are on principle, then you get more likes on social media, you get more views, you get brought into the news. So we kind of have these two different ecosystems that are kind of battling it out on the fringes. And then you have, I think, with the GOP, a lot of distrust in the federal powers, so to speak. So you start to see a lot of this anti-establishment rhetoric coming out. And I don't know, that's just kind of what I'm seeing it from my little studio here at home.
So guys, comparing them, I would submit to you that the Tucker Carlson, Fuentes are way off on a fringe. I don't think they would even be invited to a Republican convention. You know, he may have in the past, but not now.
You talking about Tucker? You talking about Tucker?
Yeah.
Tucker's coming here this month to speak at a conservative think tank with a lot of conservatives going to be there. Yeah. Of course, I asked for my money back.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to that.
We'll have to watch what he says.
He's coming here this month.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. So maybe this guy is riding on his previous credentials, but let's go to the Democratic Party. There's not a fringe there, right? They're going mainstream, and remember how they all sort of stood on the sidelines in disbelief what was happening in New York City, and Kathy Kami Hochul, whatever her name is up there in Albany, sort of endorsing him, not endorsing him. They don't know what to make of it. And now with Bernie Sanders, they're all declaring victory. They're spiking the ball. And I'm thinking they really are inside there is a war going on over there. I mean, it is way beyond, I think, where the Republicans are. There's an outright revolution going on.
Well, they're happy that Peloski's gone. They're going to get rid of Schumer. Watch and see.
Oh, yeah. Schumer's gone next. They're going to push him right out. The AOC, the squad, they're going to take right over. That's what's going to happen. That's my prediction. They're all going to this whole shutdown thing was a complete debacle on their end. They're all upset that he gave in. And I think Schumer is now grabbing at any lifeline he can get to stay in office, because they're going to run him out of town with pitchforks.
Yeah,
Well, and what's their end game, guys? You keep shutting down the government, trying to hope the media will cover for you, blaming Trump or blaming the Republicans, but everyone sees you did it. And what do you want to vote? You want to give illegal immigrants health care. And you try and hide it, but what's the end game?
Well, their end game, Chris, is total domination. It's world domination. That's what it's always been, right? They come in slowly. They take piece by piece. Before New York, they've got Seattle, right? Before New York, they've got
San Francisco.
Yeah, they're taking pieces. Here in Colorado, you see them slowly marching, right? And doing away with everything that actually makes our economies rich and good. They promote homelessness, all while claiming that, oh, gee, we've got to do something about it. You know, they're talking about here in Colorado, where in Aurora, where we just elected a bunch of progressives, they're talking about putting public toilets on the streets for the homeless, right? How's that going to make our city better, cleaner, safer? It just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, it's world domination.
I agree with that. Yeah. But I don't think that word is getting out, Chris. I don't see when this whole shutdown about, one thing that Democrats want to do is give insurance or some type of benefits to illegal aliens. That word's not getting out. I don't remember seeing not one Republican congressman went to a black radio station and got that word out there. It's not out there.
Yeah. No,
so guess how blacks going to vote? If blacks knew that truth, they'll change how they vote.
Yeah.
But they're not doing that.
One could have an argument on whether Trump, I call it trade equity. He called it tariffs, and now it's in front of the Supreme Court. Words matter, by the way. The argument turned on the fact that his rights under the 1977 Act don't include the word tariff. They include virtually every other word indicating control by the executive branch of things. But my point being is you could argue with that. When I look at the Democrats and I try and give me an argument that we could, debate, open the borders, our money to illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants can vote. You name it. I can't get my head around any argument that seems, other than a fringe of people, to have any credibility in righteousness, in fairness, in economic sanity. I'm not sure what the Democrats stand for, Michael, except what you said, this bizarre anger toward anyone who doesn't agree with them.
Well, that's all it is. It's like you need to be reprogrammed, Chris, for just even having said or thought what it is that you just did.
Yeah. I got a question for you, Mike.
Okay.
If I come in your house illegally, would you take care of me?
No.
That's the same thing. If that message gets out there, if it gets out there, that message gets out there, and Republicans have some credibility, you're gonna see a lot of folks reject not only the Marxist idea, they're gonna reject the Democrat Party that's espousing that.
Well,
I knock on the door, I sit down to your Thanksgiving table, and you say, "Well, you weren't invited." No, but I have a right to be here.
Right.
And by the way, you see that turkey? I want you to cut it in half. Why? It's my turkey. I cooked it. It's my meal. No, it's ours. What do you mean? It's my house. I bought it. My turkey. I cooked. No. You don't understand. Half of it's mine. Give me the stuffing. Pass the gravy.
Look, I call it the Goldilocks syndrome. Goldilocks should have been arrested for breaking and entering. Come on, now think about that.
I think, Chris, you just summed up the Democratic Party right there in that little analogy. It's that they want the more redistribution of other people's things. They want a dependent state. They want everybody to be dependent on the government. I mean, look at how many people are on SNAP benefits. What is it, 42 million?
It's gone up.
And that was never meant to be a lifestyle.
It's a welfare state.
Yeah, it's
Aaron, let's share for everyone in our little state of Connecticut a great example, a current example of building dependency. Okay, exhibit number 1. last year, Aaron, help me with the fact, about sometime in the last 12, 24 months, people got in their monthly electric bill this surcharge.
Yes.
And the surcharge was worth like 20% of the total bill, more a significant $200 or $300 a month increase. And you had to read what the surcharge was, and you find out, guess what it was? It was our Democrat-controlled legislature saying, we are forcing you, electric utility, to put a charge on there that you're going to then pay to us that's going to go into a fund to build windmills and solar collectors.
Exactly.
And so everyone goes nuts and goes, we have the highest electrical costs in the continental USA. Wow. The only higher place is Hawaii. So while they're increasing electric bills, right, and it's getting more and more expensive, we're the fourth most expensive state in the country to live. You can't make this up. Recently, our state rep, nice fella, big email blast, apply here for assistance for your winter electrical bills, your winter heat. So while they make you dependent over here, give us more money so we can declare, don't let capitalism work. We're going to declare what kind of energy we'll have, even though it's not reliable. And then when the energy costs are so high, we'll help you pay for them by taking more money. Just
right.
Guys, that is a redistribution scheme cloaked as helping people.
Yeah.
We're helping the environment by taxing you more and not really telling you. And then when the poor people need, oh, by the way, that fee also included paying for bills that people didn't pay.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So they built literally a dependency program here in Connecticut.
And don't forget, Chris, and let's blame it all on what? Capitalism.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Let's play this clip from the Tucker Carlson interview here. And we'll play a few minutes or a few seconds of it here. I think I have it keyed up where he starts talking. So let's just take a listen.
So where does that leave you ideologically? Like, how are you changing at this point?
So at this point, I'm realizing that something is deeply wrong here in the conservative movement, because we were led to believe in those days of the campus culture wars and Gamergate and all that, is that we're the marketplace of ideas and we're about free speech and the rest of it. And here I am being like nuked from orbit by Ben Shapiro as a kid, and for asking what I thought were reasonable questions, because I didn't come from some strange background. I come from a normal home. You know, my parents are Catholic. They're married. We came from a relatively affluent suburb. I went to Lyons Township. That's like a very affluent high school. In other words, I didn't wake up as like the son of, William Luther Pierce. I wasn't like a skinhead or something. You know, I was like a normal guy that was like, yeah, like country's too diverse. We're too.
What was up with that weird from Tucker right there?
So like, he uses, look, guys, he used his identity as credibility. But what were the last words he said right there, Aaron? Can you replay that? The very last thing he just said.
Wasn't like a skinhead or something. You know, I was like a normal guy that was like, yeah, like country's too diverse.
Yeah, the country's too diverse. Let's play a few more seconds of it, then we'll go back.
Wow.
We're too pro-Israel. Like, this is reasonable. And I was just getting sandbagged for it and blacklisted. And what's more, nobody cared. Like, because I remember going on Twitter and saying, like, you know, why isn't anyone sticking up for me? Where's Dave Rubin? You know, the free speech warrior. Where's he on this one? Where's Shapiro? Where's all these people? And in some way, they were all sort of complicit in this. So I realized that the conservative movement was completely bankrupt in that way.
Yeah. Well,
and I became very radical.
Well, you became, I mean, let me just say, I'm so familiar with, you know, I was much older when it happened to me and much more insulated. I was not a college student. I was like 45. So, you know, and I was in a much better place to withstand the pressure. But I do think and I want to, this is my main question to you, is when you get attacked, when people call you names, like they always called me racist, and I would always think to myself, I'm actually not. I would tell you if I was racist. I'm a little sexist, but I'm not racist. And I never understood why they did that. And then I thought maybe the point is to make me racist. where you get to a point where you're like, well, if you're going to slander me, then I'll just become the thing you're calling me. I do think that's a feature of human nature, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
And if you stare too intently at the accusers, at the, whatever Ben Shapiro's or Mark Levin's or Ted Cruz or whoever it is calling you names, it like distorts you and you actually change and become what they say you are. Have you thought that ever? Do you worry that happened to you?
No, I don't think it ever did, because I know who I am. I had a very firm grounding of what I'm about, which is that I was deeply Catholic, and I still am, deeply patriotic and pro-American. And I don't consider myself temperamentally to be an angry or a hateful person. So I never, in other words, lost my
except for
temper,
the too divisive part, too diverse.
Too diverse. Yeah. All right, a few more seconds.
This thing about you look into the abyss and the abyss stares back into you. That never really happened to me. I was frustrated. I was frustrated because I felt like I was being denied a level playing field, opportunity, and it wasn't fair. I felt like I was right, and these people that were basically hypocrites, grifters, not really conservative, they were controlling the conversation, and as a consequence, they were controlling the Republican movement. And I really perceive this as like an urgent crisis, because if we wanted Trump to deliver America first, to realize it, the Trump movement had to transform the conservative movement to reflect the victory that Trump won.
So that's part of that interview. That is very, very interesting.
Wow. And this is Kevin Roberts' best friend.
Yes.
Head of the Heritage Foundation.
Yep.
Go figure.
So look how the kid uses his background as air cover. Think, guys, if we switch that and someone says, I came up in the hood, I did this. So what? You're an individual. Yeah. What did you do?
Yeah. It goes back to
using his background, some like identity, like you can trust me because I grew up a Catholic and went to a good school. Wait, dude. We don't care about that.
Right. The next question is, what kind of Catholic are you?
Yeah.
That's like somebody saying, I'm a Christian. What kind of Christian are you? Because slave masters were Christians too.
You're right.
Yep. Right. So just got to ask the next question.
But you know how these, Michael, again, I'll turn to you because you've got a real fascination use of words. So here's Tucker Carlson, and I heard this described as a softball interview, and now I get it. Wouldn't have an interviewer, had it been sort of an objective or even adverse interviewer, when he said our country is too diverse, he said, wait, excuse me, could you explain to the audience what you mean by that?
Exactly.
So the first 5 minutes of BS of who you are, what did you just say?
Yeah.
And what does that mean?
Yeah. And that's one of the things and Tucker can do that. And he does do that depending upon what the subject is and who he might be interviewing and stuff. And it drives me crazy when he just allows people to say things without questioning them on some deeper level as to what they actually mean. And we all are old enough, I think, that the sitting here, the four of us, to know that you've got to dig deep and understand what people are actually saying, because words can mean multiple things, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah,
well, remember, guys, this Tucker Carlson is the guy who went off kind of the deep end, and he called, didn't he basically on the air said Dominion voting machines, Dominion was crooked.
Right.
And, sort of drank that Kool-Aid without, he had a lot of people, unfortunately, that their mouth started moving before their brain was engaged. But Fox settled almost $1 billion, wasn't it? $700 million settlement or something.
It was high,
and he was arrogant about it. And apparently the report, he called people names. He had a big ego. So I'm not buying it. It's strange stuff.
It's very, very strange. And just some of this stuff, like before we got on the air, I had pulled up some quotes from Nick here. And I mean, this is the one that I can't believe somebody would actually say this. And it's just that he said, Jews are running society. Women need to shut the expletive up. blacks need to be in prison for the most part, and we would live in paradise. It's that simple. That is just bonkers to me that somebody would say something like that. Like, that ideology it's sickening. It really is sick. That's not
that even giving this punk a platform, guys.
Right.
Anybody can spew this garbage, but to have Tucker Carlson and the Heritage Foundation, I mean, it's bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, his rhetoric is very, very extreme, and it's going to be interesting to see where this goes, because now you have Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was just on The View. It's like there's this breakdown within the GOP, and it's going to be interesting to see where it goes from, I guess, the old style of the GOP, the ones that have been there for decades that have failed to live up to the promises they have made, and maybe that's making people get sick of them. And now you're going to have this far right extreme rhetoric where people are going to start being pulled towards it. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where this all goes.
Yeah.
You know, what's interesting, guys, is that I think it's a generational thing. I think there's a generation, not our group, it's after us, that is leaning this way, because it's more than just Roberts and Carson. Candace Owens has said some things that you put in the same category. And so that's concerning, because that's not conservatism in terms of the definition we're using. I wonder what's his definition of conservatism, this guy named Fuentes. He sounds like the definition of conservatism that he has is that of the Democrat conservatives, where they will hold on to the doctrine of their racist fathers, where we will embrace the philosophy of our founding fathers of liberty for all. Two different definitions with the same word.
Well, we'll see if he's around in the conversation 6 months. To me, he's a kind of a guy trying to make a name for himself on the fringes, and his words look pretty thin veil for what's really underneath him.
Would you think this was an effort as a shock jock to increase ratings? I don't put that past him.
No, one has to certainly put that on the list of possible motives here. But
he is being talked about.
Yeah, we're talking about him. Yeah.
Our little podcast is talking about him. So if we're talking about him, you know,
so that's the problem. Are you really a conservative, or you're a celebrity focusing on the money?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, these guys seem so naive to realize, you know, there's a reason Russia was pouring money and advisors and weapons into Syria. The more they can keep the Middle East disrupted, the more they get their control. So why Iran was using Hamas. And so this idea that somehow we're too pro-Israel, they don't seem to look at the big chessboard.
Yeah, I mean, consider the alternative.
Yeah.
Right. Let's be pro-Iran, right? And blow our own selves up.
Exactly. Yeah. Nobody says that, though. Nobody brings that point up.
Wow.
So, well, interesting stuff. I really would hope the listeners to our show would dig into what is actually said by the people emerging on both sides, the Democrats and you know, the Republicans, and begin to intellectually, Michael, my wrap-up comment is stay curious. Dig into what people actually say, not what they tell you they mean, but what did they actually say?
Yeah.
And what are they doing?
Absolutely. And also to your point, Chris, a history, dig deep. The book that you recommended that I read, The Presidents and the People, phenomenal. You'll get to understand how from Abraham Lincoln to Grant, right? Grant moved the ball forward, but after Grant, things started to go wary. And then Woodrow Wilson came along and put the white supremacist tag on the United States. And, you know, we've been fighting against that ever since.
Really good. Okay, Carl, I'm excited to see your book. I got to get on and order one of those.
Well, get on the order, because the first 10 orders, we're going to give away a T-shirt with the book. And it will have this on it, Frederick Douglass Republican on it.
Nice.
And the U.S. flag on the right. So if you order the book, Douglass versus Marx, you get the free T-shirt.
You know, let me give you a shout out, K. Carl. Ever since I met you a number of years ago and Aaron knows this. Everyone said in this last election last week, how did your town do so well? And the fundamental building block, I think there are a number of things we did, including not being afraid to take on our opponents on the principles. We didn't play personality politics, but every single one could explain why they were proud to be Republican. The party created by Douglass and Lincoln. And they're proud of that heritage, and they don't apologize. Here's what's key. They can describe why they're proud to be Republican without naming the name of the current president.
Right.
Without going into even though the opponents want you to go there, you don't have to go there. And they didn't. They said, we share these values. We share these constitutional principles. We're united on that. The only disagreement we might have is how we get to an end result of governance. So shout out, K. Carl, to you and Frederick Douglass Republicanism.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, fellas. Well, that was another great episode. And for those of you who are watching online or watch this replay, we are here every Thursday. Are we taking any time off for Thanksgiving? I'm trying to, when does the next, I got to look at my calendar here because I want to say, yeah. So next,
Thanksgiving is on a Thursday. That's for sure.
It is. Are we gonna do a quick Thanksgiving episode that day, or are we gonna
let's take a week off?
Take a week off. All right. So
I got to be careful because I might have some commies coming to Thanksgiving dinner and try and take out the turkey.
Well, that always work on Thanksgiving Day. That's when you're liberal and the little socialist nephews and nieces. Not in my family. All my family members are Frederick Republicans. By the way. I don't have that. I'm talking to the listening audience. You know, you got those little socialists going to come to your home. You love them as you raised them as conservative, but they're coming home now from college.
For everybody, quick, and we'll do this next week, Aaron, but your quick guide to liberal conversations or conversations with liberals at the Thanksgiving table. One, what exactly do you mean by that? What do you mean? Can you give me an example? Two, when they describe some utopia, like the rich ought to be, well, how would that work out? Describe what that might look like and follow that to its logical conclusion. And finally, the killer, do you think people would really perceive that as fair? When you go through those, they can't make it to question number 2 because they can't describe exactly what they mean.
That's number 3. Number 4 is, Chris, I'm not a conservative anymore. I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. and here's why.
That's right.
There you go. All right, gentlemen. Well, it was great seeing you all today. We will be back on the 20th of November, right? Yeah, that's next week. So, yeah, we'll see you there at roughly 10:30 Eastern Standard Time to 10:40, depending on if we get our stuff together. So it's great seeing you guys, and we will see all of you next week.
Thanks for joining us on the Liberty Collaborative. If today's episode lit a fire or gave you clarity, share it and be part of the movement. Subscribe, leave a review, and keep the conversation going. Until next time, stand firm, stay free.